Welcome to Game Bites with Mo45673. Thunderbolt Apache Leader. What is this game? This game that everybody talks about. This game that so many people say is one of the greatest solitaire games of all time. What is this game? This game puts you in a campaign. You have, look at this, you have pilots that you choose to fly your aircraft. You have so many different kinds of aircraft that you can fly, and they all have different stats. Then you got your pilots. Look at the top right. Both these guys are AH-64 pilots. They're both skilled. They both have way different stats. This guy, also skilled, also an AH-64 pilot. Also, very different stats. Look at that. Here are your AH-64s. Different stats than these airplanes. Different stats than this helicopter. Here's your guy. He's green, as you can see right here. He's also stressed. He has 2 stress. Whereas this guy, he has 5 stress, and since at his level of skilled, he gets shaken at 5 or 6, and unfit at greater than 6, he loses -2 to all his stats. So what is this game? What is this game? So you got your planes. What does that mean? How do you fly them? Over here, we have battalions coming to our base. Right now, some are in the front line, some are in the enemy transit. You also have the enemy rear, the friendly rear, and your airbase, where, as you can see, I have some scouts. The airbase will give you SO points. That's like your currency in the game. Each enemy in here makes you lose 3. 1 SO point is quite valuable, so 3. Ooh. Stress 3. All your pilots gain stress. I already showed you what stress does to your pilots. It's not very good. So you have these battalions coming down towards your airbase, trying to overwhelm you, make you lose all your SO points, and make you lose the campaign in that manner. Each of those counters has a card associated with it, as you can see right here. The card tells you how many victory points it is, any special conditions, that, if any, that the battalion has, and all the enemies in it. So, 3S has 4 anti-air, 2 APCs, 6 Scuds, 4 SPAs, and 2 trucks. So, what does that mean? Each campaign goes over multiple days, and each day you are going to choose 1, 2, 3, as many battalions as you want to attack. Now, generally, you're only going to have about 5 aircraft, maybe 6, maybe 4, depends on the campaign, and you're only going to generally want to allocate 2 or 3 to each battalion, meaning that you're probably on average going to attack 2 battalions a day. I would just like to clarify that the aircraft you choose and the pilots you choose are totally up to you. As you can see at the top left here, you get a certain amount of SO points to start your campaign off with, and you get to spend those on aircraft. Some aircraft, like the A-10 planes, are quite expensive, and some, like the AH-1s, are really, really cheap. So you get to divvy up those planes, those points amongst your aircraft as much as you want. You could buy a ton of crappy AH-1s or very few A-10s, but mostly you want to mix and match. Anyhow, I have chosen to take on 3S. I decided to take on that battalion, the one I showed you earlier. And these are the pilots and the aircraft I have decided to allocate. As you will notice, this AH-1 has bullet holes in it. What bullet holes do is they give each of your pilots 1 stress for each bullet holes marker on it. So I chose this pilot because he has a cool of 2, which means he automatically loses 2 stress after each day. Therefore, it kind of negates the damage bullet holes does. Hopefully he won't get too stressed during this mission, which would make him shaken or possibly unfit. So, as you can see here, I have set up my aircraft. I have added weapons to them. There are limitations on weapons based off of SO points, weight, that's the number at the bottom right, how much weight it can carry. The actual weapons they're allowed to have, various things. Those yellow striped weapons counters, those are air to air. Now the battalion I'm attacking doesn't actually have any aircraft attacking. However, you can have pop-up enemies, and those pop-up enemies can be helicopters. I also added one stress to judge because of the bullet holes on the aircraft he is flying. Now, let's actually get down to business. Each battle is going to have a number of loiter turns. Loiter turns are basically your fast pilot's attack, enemy attacks, and then your slow pilot's attack. Each day, you're going to have a special condition drawn. Each battle you fly to, you'll have a mission event. Here you have your days and special options. As you can see, I'm on 3 special options, but actually I'm on 2 after arming my planes. There's a ton of references in this game. You have your scouts. Your scouts can increase your turns based off what you roll. Even more. Look at all this reference. It looks like a lot, but really it all makes sense once you know it. This game is not overly difficult. So here is the battlefield. There is Dart flying his F-16. There is Flash flying his AH-64. And up here is Judge flying his AH-64. Here you have all your enemies. So what's going to happen? First, you draw pop-up counters for each high-altitude enemy. For each high-altitude pilot. None of my pilots are high-altitude. So then you go to enemy cover, where you roll a die, and you look at this little board over here, and the board will tell you who goes to cover. Cover means anyone in a hex with a ridge. Those are ridges. That's a hex without a ridge. They will basically just run over here. And what that means is you can't attack them from a different hex. You have to be in the same hex as them. That kind of sucks, because usually you can only attack one hex at a time. So let's start it off. So basically, fast pilots are going to attack first. So if you look at my pilots and see that Flash is my fast pilot, so he gets to attack before the enemy does. Now, Flash, I'm a little worried about him because he is in range of both this guy and this guy. You can see that because of the 1 in the black circle. That means range. Above that number 1, you will see a red 2. That 2 means 2 heavy damages are going to be, he'll be attacked with. What the low altitude means, though, is that he is actually blocked from line of sight from that one, because he is low altitude and he's behind a ridge. So he is blocked line of sight. As well is Judge. Judge is also blocked from him because he is behind a ridge and he is low. As you can see, not all enemies attack. This enemy does not. This does not. This gives a light hit. There are light hits, which are yellow, heavy hits, which are red. So my fast pilot Flash, let's look at him over here. Another thing I want to point out is that fast pilots generally have worse stats, whereas slow pilots of the same level generally have better stats. So there is a little bit of a trade-off there. Okay, so we're looking at Flash's weapons. And what does he have? He doesn't have any weapons that allow him to fire into 2 hexes. So let's take out the guy on the left. Right now he is hovering. Putting him in the center of the hex means hovering. Putting him over there means that he must move into the next hex. Also, planes can't hover. Makes sense. Okay, so he is going to be attacked. And we have his attack angle. So let me ponder this for a minute. Since this is the first turn and you're allowed to place your aircraft in a starting hex, I decided to attack this from a different way. Flash is going to be in this hex. He is going to attack him over here. I have other plans for Dart. And he's also going to be attacked by this guy, which with one light hit. So let's see what happens. We want Flash to attack him, and while we're attacking this hex, we may as well expend another weapon for him. So we look at our weapons, and we say, all right, so let's get rid of that Flash. The top right number means what you have to roll to get a hit. It only takes one hit to kill a counter. If a number is in brackets, that means you actually get to keep the counter. So, for example, for the LAU 61 over here, if I rolled a 7, I would actually get to keep the counter and use it again. The number below, like on the enemy, means the range. So I can actually hit him with a... I don't want to use my LAU 61 right now, so let's just use a AGM 114. So we'll use 2 AGM 114s. Your aircraft also gets a cannon. See that? That is your cannon value. He has to roll 7. And the F-16, I'm sorry about this, also has a 7 value. So let's expend an AGM 114 on him and an LAU 68. So LAU 68, AGM 114. And now we roll. So we're going to roll a... So we roll a 4. So here's my dice tray. I rolled a 5. Whew, that's lucky. So he is dead. And this goes back to supply. And a nice little graphic of him dead. Here, I am rolling a 6. Actually, since this is a standoff attack, meaning it's not on the same hex, I get +1 for all my die rolls. So I actually have to roll not a 6 or a 9, but a 5 or an 8. An 8 to keep it, a 5 is still a hit, but expend it. So we do our roll, and I got a 4. That sucks. So I lose the counter, and the guy doesn't die, but at least he died. Then he's going to be attacked, and we look at all other attacks. There is nobody in line of sight of any enemy that can attack, except him. So what does an attack look like? Well, we reach into our little chit cup here, and we pull one out, and it is red. But on the other side it is yellow. What does it say? Structural damage. Ooh, that's not good. Structural damage means it is a structural hit, meaning this plane only gets 2 hits. The third hit, it crashes. So there we go. Isn't that lovely? The last thing I want to show you is that it says A10 at the top. If the plane attacked was an A10, it would actually have no effect. Some counters actually say AH-64 on them, AH-1. Anyhow, that goes back in the thing. Those go back into supply, and that's a turn. And then your slow pilots get to attack in pretty much the same way. So first, this guy's going to go to high altitude so he doesn't accumulate stress. And then he can move, since he's an F-16, he can move 2 or 3 spaces, but no more or no less. So he's going to go here, then he's going to drop his MK-20. Ooh, look at that MK-20. You know what that 6 means? That means that with one bomb, you get to roll for every enemy in the hex. And it's only in the same hex as you, which is what that black 0 means. So we take our MK-20, we put it in the hex. We have our guy here, and he is going to fly to the next hex after he attacks. So actually what you're allowed to do in your turn is altitude. You could change it or not. You don't have to. attack and then move, or altitude, move, attack, move, or altitude, move, move, and attack. It is totally up to you. So he is there, and let's roll, starting with the top left. I have to roll a 6 or higher. Any modifiers on dart? Yes. Cannon strike attack. This is a strike attack in the same hex. So I only have to roll a 5. So let's start off the rolling. Come on. That is a 9, meaning, bam, he is dead. And we continue rolling for each enemy in the hex. Let's do a few more. That is a 1, so the next guy is not killed. And then we roll again. That is a 6. That is enough. So he is now killed. And so on and so forth. And then he will end up either here, which is 2 away, or here, or he could go here and then down here. But he always has to be on a hex edge because he is never allowed to hover. So that would be 3, right? 1, 1, 2, and then 3. And an enemy can fly into any hex edge except the one he just came through, meaning he can't do a U-turn. And then he would fight, and so on and so forth, until either the loiter counter gets too low. Right after the attacks, you move it down, and you keep attacking until either the loiter counter gets too low and you got to get out of there, or until you have destroyed, or have destroyed, if that's your goal, the battalion. And then you fly home, you draw another mission event. Mission events have 2. So you got a top one while you fly there, and a bottom one when you fly home. And then you would probably fly your other battalion, and then you would do your end of day, and then you would go to your next day. And your next day would, you would get more SO points in the next day. And then after the campaign is over, you figure out exactly how you did. Great, good, adequate, poor, or dismal. There are so many great things about this game. So many great things. Look, these are all the aircraft you have to choose from at the beginning of the game. These are all the pilots. Each pilot has 3 cards, and each card is double-sided for 6 levels, because your pilots level up. They get XP. So those are all your pilots. You have, look at this. Look at all these enemies. Turn that up for you. Look at all these enemies. Look at look at all these counters and enemies and weapons. So many weapons. You have your campaign and your situation cards, and you can mix and match those. There's 8 campaigns and 6 situations, I think. You have more tiles. Each campaign uses specific tiles, but each battalion you fight, it's randomized, and there's so many good things. You have your damage chits, and this is all your damage. So killed, stress, altitude, attack, cannon, all this. These are all the different kinds of damage that could happen. Search and rescue. If your pilot crashes, you have your pop-up enemy chits, and sometimes you get no enemy like that green one. Sometimes you get something like this, right? And that is awful. Look at that. Come on, focus. All right, that's a AAA site. 3 heavy hits and up to 2 spaces away. So you don't want one of these coming up. Flying at a high altitude, very risky. But if you fly at low altitude and you fly through a ridge, then you have to do your ridge evasion. So you roll and you get stress. And you can crash if unfit. And there's so much balancing in here. Your first couple of missions, you're gonna be doing great. You're gonna be like the king. You go in and you take him out and blah blah blah. But after that, your pilots are gonna be stressed. Your aircraft's gonna have damage on it. Look at that. Look at that. After one loiter round, I already have structural damage. I'm probably not the greatest player at this, but you know, but you want your pilots to fly, even if they're stressed, because they get XP by flying. But if they don't fly, then they get stress taken off, or R&R. And I don't know what else to show you. Here's your pilots. Let's see this. Here are your pilots, and I'm missing a card. I don't know where it went. Oh, here it is. But you have your, these are your judge cards, and these are all the different levels, and you know, he only needs 4 XP to go from newbie to green. Here he is at green with slightly better stats. Still a slow pilot, but if you could get him up to ace, he's quite good. He also gets an evasive of 1. I forget what that means because I never get evasive pilots, but it has something to do with dodging attacks. Like you roll a die or something. I can't quite remember. But if you get evasive, you get to dodge attacks. And there's just so much in this game, so much to balance. You're only going to use, I don't know, 9 pilots, 5 aircraft, and there are so many aircraft in this game. Can I show you again? Look at this. Look at this. And each aircraft gets 1 pilot and then 1 for each type of aircraft. So there's so much. And some aircraft you can't use. Some aircraft doesn't need pilots, like the MQ-1 is just a scouting thing. And then you get the A-10C, which you can only use from 2006 onwards. And that is linked, which means it doesn't have line of sight blocked if another linked aircraft doesn't. There's so much in this game, and it's so good. And I've talked long enough, and I really hope you can see what makes this game so great. There's so much playability in here. I highly recommend it.